All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another night on Microsoft Flight Simulator. Oh, 1 second. Hold on. So I'm just trying to figure out why I can hear myself through the stream. That is a new sensation. Apologies. Bear with me for 1 second. All right, I think I figured it out. We should be all good to go. Yes, we are all set. All right, let's try that again. Welcome back, everyone, to another night on Microsoft Flight Simulator. As you can probably tell, tonight's going to be a little different from our usual stream because we are not in the Airbus A320. We're not in the fly-by-wire experimental edition. We are in the Heavy Division 787 development version. And the reason why we're in this plane tonight is because we are going to practice for Cross the Pond coming up this Saturday, April 2nd. I'll be wheels up at about 11:15 Zulu out of Amsterdam. Really looking forward to it. Flying to Boston. It's going to be a ton of fun. Tonight we'll be practicing departures out of Amsterdam, heading on a short flight to Dublin. And on the way, we'll be practicing a number of procedures that we can expect to encounter when we do cross the pond for real. So we'll be practicing vectors, holds, speed changes, altitude changes, direct two-way points. We'll also be going through our pre-flight and timing, how long that will take. We'll be programming the FMC, we'll be discussing approaches and landings, and this will all be relatively new to me because I've been flying pretty much the Airbus exclusively, and there's a lot of weird nuances in the Boeing and a lot of weird flight sim-isms with the Asobo plane itself. So this should be fun, interesting, educational. On top of that, you'll probably notice that we are in a special livery tonight. We are in a Peace for Ukraine International livery. This is because as a part of Cross the Pond, I am intending to raise funds to support Project Hope, who is raising money to provide supplies, much needed supplies, to the refugees of the Ukraine war. So I hope you'll join me tonight. You'll join me Thursday when we practice arrivals into Boston, and join me on Saturday when we do Cross the Pond. And if you feel like giving, feel free to do so. I'll post in chat right now with the command !Ukraine. You'll be able to get information about how you can support Project Hope. But if you're here just to watch and have fun, that's totally fine too. Let's go ahead and get this party rolling. All right, so we are in the cockpit. We are cold and dark, and I have absolutely no idea what to do. That's a lie. I know somewhat what to do. But I am going to be consulting handy-dandy checklists just to see if there is any additional information we can glean from pre-flight. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through what I think pre-flight should look like, and then we'll check it against the checklist. So coming up on the overhead here, I definitely want to turn that battery on and get external power connected. Then what else do we want to do? We want to get lights on. We want to get that logo and have the lights on so folks know downstairs that we're here. I think we can also, is this for this overhead panel? I think it is. Yeah, let's brightening it up a little bit, get the lights going. And let's get the seatbelt signs to on. And what else do we want to do? Oh yeah, the IRSs. We want to get those aligning because it takes a bit of time in the 787, if I believe correctly. We'll go ahead and turn the pumps on now. I don't think the pumps are as temperamental as they are in the Airbus. At least I don't think it will shout at me for turning them on before we refuel. And I think that's pretty much all we have to do with the overhead for now. We can set anti-ice to auto, but I doubt we're going to need it. We'll just keep the engines on auto because that's where they were. Alright. And I think everything else, like the packs, it's all inoperative in this mod. It's not as detailed as the A320. So that's really it, I think, for overhead. Let's check our screens here. We'll get rid of that yoke. You can see the IRSs are aligning, and 10 minutes to alignment. We'll see how we go with pre-flight, but we may just cheat and get that, advance that manually. Looking at the glare shield here, we'll want to be in hectopascals where we get our ATIS information. And what else do we want to set here? We'll set the glare shield when we have our departure briefed. We'll flip those flight directors on for now. There they go. And I think that is probably it for that. Coming down here, we'll want to set our auto brakes to RTO for takeoff. And we'll do the FMC in a bit. Coming down here, fuel controls on cutoff. Transponders on TA, RA. I think it's just kind of automatic as it is, although we can just go to standby for now while we're in stand. And parking brakes engaged. Just a weird little parking brake lever there. But that is all looking good. Flaps are up, speed brake is disarmed. Alright. I think we're good. And let's just make sure that the I have the right control profile loaded. Nope, I don't think I do. So let's hop into controls options and switch over to my presets for the 787. The only thing we'll really need to change, I'll change the alpha to the default and the Bravo to my preset for the 787. The other controls, mouse and keyboard, can stay how it is. All right, apply and save, go back, resume, and let's check that again. Yep, that all looks good. Speed brake arming, yep, okay. So I think we're all set there. All right, so let's compare that with our pre-flight checklist. So parking brakes are set, battery switch is on, APU and APU master knob are off, external power is on, landing gear is down and indicating down. Speed brakes is retracted, flaps are up, engine fuel controls are on cutoff, fuel pump switches are off, but we turn them on. Engine instruments checked. Anti-ice controls are set to auto, window heating as required, altitude setting is not set, IFR clearance is not requested, fuel quantity is not checked. Those are all things we still need to do. And beacon lighting is on, and we're not ready for pushback yet. So those last few items we still need to kind of work through. So let's take a look at our flight plan tonight. Give me a second, I will share that with y'all. Alright, this is, oh, by the way, this is the website for Project Hope, if you want to know what it looked like. But we are interested right now in our flight plan. We don't have it integrated like we do in the fly-by-wire. But we are Virgin 9084, that'll be our call sign on Saturday. Tonight heading from Amsterdam to Dublin. Alternate is Echo Golf Charlie Charlie, which I believe is in the in England. Cost index 73, very different from the fly-by-wire. Cruise is 360, a headwind of 28 knots. And looking, shear rate looks fine. Looking at fuel, this is a lot more than we're used to. 17,702, and we're taking an extra hour of fuel because we should be prepared when we do cross the pond for real. That we'll need to take a lot of extra fuel with us for holds, for delays. We may not get to fly at the optimum cruise level. A lot of reasons why we'll want to take extra fuel, and thankfully this plane can carry it. As you can see by fuel, we can carry like 5 times as much fuel as we're carrying on this flight. We'll have some headwind when we fly to Boston. Quick flight will only be in the air for an hour and 17 minutes. That will be longer because we'll be practicing holds and vectors and deviations and all that. But that is the plan. That looks pretty good. Scrolling down, anything else we want to pay attention to? We'll get the METAR information from here. So departure, this report is from about an hour ago now, but that's fine. Winds light 5 at 7 knots, variable between 20 and 90, cap OK, 6 degrees, QNH 1009, no significant weather. That all looks fine. And let's compare that with our runway. We are expecting runway on departure, runway 9, and that's fine for winds out of 5. Alright, so let's get that QNH plugged in. That was 1009 if I recall. And I have that on my Logitech panel here, 1009. And if we jump back into the cockpit, we can see that QNH displayed here in nice small letters. Alright, so let's brief the departure. I have Navigraph set up here in a separate window, so we can brief it together. And I have all of our charts already preloaded. So we are we're here at stand Delta 47. We're looking for a runway. There's so many runways at Amsterdam, it's crazy. Runway 5? No. Hold on. Runway 9. So that is... Oh, here it is. Okay, so we'll probably push back. Taxi straight up. Let's go straight up to Alpha. To Bravo, we'll make a left on Bravo, go all the way down and hang a right at November 5. That'll be our taxi route tonight. Looking at the departure, we're doing the Bergy 3 November, if I remember correctly. Bergie 3 November. So there will be a speed restriction, which is nice. We could pre-program that into the autopilot. And our initial climb out minimum, we'll do 2,500 just for practice. And then we'll clear ourselves up at that point. We'll want to be above 9,500 at Bergie. I'm not going to play too much with the VNAV because I'm not sure what state the VNAV is in. We'll see how we feel in the moment. Okay. And VNAV will actually be a non-factor on the way out because they're all minimum requirements. Okay, cool. So let's get back to the cockpit here. And we'll put in a 2,500. I've also unbound the Bravo throttle from the autopilot in the 787 because it is pretty buggy. It is pretty buggy. So we'll just make do with interacting virtually with this panel. And indicate airspeed 220 knots on that restriction. Heading, we'll want to adjust that bug to runway heading. Everything's a bit more manual in the 787. So the runway heading for runway 9 is 86. All right. 86. That all looks great. All right, what else do we need to do? IRSs will be aligned in another 2.5 minutes. I say we don't wait. Let's go into the IRS menu and force align. And we are aligned. Great. So now we can go through the FMC flows, not MCDU, FMC in the Boeing version, I believe. So I need to index ident. This is where we check our model and our engines are all correct. Latest ARAX cycle. That does come through accurately, so that looks fantastic. Next, position init. So I believe we just click that GPS position to copy it into the scratch pad and set the IRS position there. Ref airport is Echo Hotel Alpha Mike. Gate is Delta 47. And heading in this position is 177. All right, routing. At this point, we'd probably want to do our clearance. We're not on VATSIM tonight, but I'm going to practice our clearance anyway. So let's look at our charts and get all the frequencies we need. There's going to be more frequencies here than we need. We'll be able to tell exactly what frequencies we need the day of when we're connected to VATSIM. And we'll skip the ATIS frequency since we have gotten that effectively already with the METAR on the flight plan. So we'll look at ship full delivery. Oh, and I realize you can't see what I'm looking at. So ship full delivery is 121.98. We'll do ground frequency 121.56. And tower will do 119.23. And departure will do 119.055. So that is delivery, ground, tower, departure. All the frequencies we need on our way out. All right. So let's come down to our radios here. You get used to the new shortcuts. There we go. That's what we want. Go into the VHF menu, and we'll go ahead and punch in delivery. So 121.98. The standby. We'll switch over to the active frequency, and then we'll pre-fill 121.56. And I don't know if I can use the center or right channels to pre-fill tower and departure as well. I'll just assume that I can't until we can test it day of. So we'll just use the left channel for now. But you can actually step. Oh no, sorry, wrong button. what did I just do? What frequency is this? 121.56. You can actually, I think, just choose the active. So it looks like it should work, but I can't really test it right now. All right, so we'll assume we're on delivery, and we'll just make up a clearance call. Oop. Interesting. All right. So ship all delivery, Virgin 9084 at stand Delta 47, type Boeing 787-10, requesting IFR clearance to Boston Logan. We have information echo. And then they would reply with our clearance, something like you're cleared to Boston via the, what is it? I already forgot our departure. Clear to Boston via the Bergen 3 November departure. Initial climb 5,000, expect 7,000 5 minutes after departure, blah, 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 blah. Contact delivery for push and starts, squawk, blah, 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 blah. Something along those lines. And we'll copy that down, we'll repeat it, and they'll say read back correct, and we'll feel really good about ourselves. Great. So let's assume we have our clearance. We'll come back to the FMC and continue setting this up. So the Heavy Division mod does have SimBrief integration, which is fantastic. It's not only doing our waypoints, it's also doing our payload and fuel. So that is just all automatic, which is really nice. Now quickly, just off screen, check that that block fuel looks correct. Yeah, and it does. It has incorporated the extra hour of fuel that I put into the flight plan. Alright, so that all looks good. There's our routing. Go ahead and activate, execute. So now that will appear on our screens there, and we'll go on to the next step. Performance in it, this is all again from the flight plans. That's all automatically inserted. Go to thrust limit. We will select, I'll have the FMC select the right kind of flex temperature. And we'll just do stock takeoff configuration 1 and climb 1, which just indicates our takeoff D rate and our climb thrust. Over to takeoff, we'll do flaps 5. Nice long runway. And based on that, we'll calculate our V-speeds. It says pre-flight complete, which is nice, but we're not quite done yet. We still have to do depart and arrival, so let's program in our departure. Runway 9, that's from the SimBrief, but we can select Bergen 3 November. That looks good. Go ahead and execute that. And let's just double check here that that makes sense. And yeah, that looks generally correct from what I recall of the chart. So, fine with that. Alright, and I think we can choose what we want to display. Is data constraints? Yes, that's what that is. Perfect. We'll also get traffic in there. We'll see if that works day of. But I think that is fine. Alright, so that is that. That took probably about 20 minutes end to end. So I'm just trying to base like when I'll actually connect to VATSIM on Saturday based on how long the pre-flight takes. But looking at the rest of our checklist, let's make sure we did all the rest of it. Altitude is set, IFR clearance is received, fuel quantity is checked, beacon lighting come on, because I think we are ready for pushback. So we would contact ground day of for push and start. So Sherpole delivery, Virgin 9084 ready for push and start. And they would probably advise us to push back and point to, based on where we are, yeah, point to the west. So let's use our pushback mod, which will be very helpful here. And let it know where we want to push back to. Yeah, so we'll push back this way and we'll follow the taxiway up that way. So right here. Oop, I didn't like all that zooming. Fantastic, I just bugged it out. Alright, cancel, pre-plan. And we got it back. It's good that we're figuring out these like little bugs now, because it'll be a pain if we had to figure it out day of. Alright, that looks good. And request pushback.
Cockpit to ground.
This is ground. Stand by.
So before startup, seatbelt sign is on, fuel quantity is checked, engine throttles on idle, engine area is clear, auto brake settings to RTO, yaw damper is on, I think. I don't think that's actually an option. Fly-by-wire setting is also not an option. Hydraulic engine pumps not an option. AC packs in op, equipment cooling in op, fuel pumps are on, and we have startup clearance. So we should get the APU on at this point.
Okay, sir. The bypass pin is installed. All doors and hatches closed and all ground equipment is removed.
The parking brakes are set. You may lift.
And we can
Parking brakes
check
lifting the aircraft.
the systems page. We can check, oh, we have no fuel in the center, so we turn those pumps off.
We are cleared for start and push.
There's the APU starting up.
Okay, cleared for push start. Please release parking brake.
Alright, once the APU is on, I'll release the parking brake, turn off external power. Okay,
Please release parking brake.
so let's, yep, everything is still stayed on, so that is a good sign.
Parking brakes are released.
Commencing pushback. You can start the engines in sequence.
It will start in the sequence.
Yeah, so day of, we'll probably do one engine start. We'll turn on the fuel cutoffs and set both engines to start now. I believe we could start both engines at the same time, which is nice in the 7.8. There we got N2, N1 coming alive. Take a look outside. Our beautiful Ukraine International livery. That is a big plane. Like, this is probably a bad stand to choose if there are folks that are going to be in the stands behind us, because, like, we may... I don't know, actually looks like we're staying clear of it. But it is pretty tight. So engine startup, APU is on, engine EEC modes are on, engine start nav starts. When these go back to norm, we're good. So we basically just turn off APU. Set a parking brake.
Parking brake set.
Parking brake set. Lowering aircraft.
Ground. Startup is complete. You may disconnect.
Roger. Good engine start. Cleared to disconnect. See you at the side. Have a
Taxi
good
lights can
flight.
come on.
Holding position waiting for the visual. Thank you and goodbye.
I think strobes are automatic, so I'll set those to on at this point. And we can go ahead and get our flap setting. So flaps 5. And it's unclear if we need to arm the spoilers for takeoff. I don't think we need to, because the auto braking on this plane is pretty intense, and I haven't seen other simmers do it, so we'll assume not. And yeah, I think we'll go ahead and request... Well, oh, there is a before taxi checklist. So parking brakes are set, fuel quantity is checked, taxi lights are on, nav lights are on, instrument displays are checked, taxi clearance requests. So now we would contact ground. So swap frequencies there. Sherpole ground Virgin 9084 is ready for taxi runway 09. And they'll give us taxi clearance, and it'd be like, cool, thanks, bro. And brakes off, and give a little power, and we'll go on our merry way. So unlike the A320, this plane turns like you need pretty much constant power. And it's just like big and unruly. But actually, I think I gauged that turn pretty well. Just you have to be patient with it. So we'll probably lose a lot of our time just in the taxi. I wish I could use the glare shield here, because it'd be really nice to see all that heads-up display, but it still looks broken. Also, our seating position is a little off, so I'm just going to go to the camera options real quick. I have it set for the fly-by-wire, so I'll just go back to defaults. That side picture looks better, but this is still messed up. I think there is a special camera mode for it. So cockpits, pilots, HUD. Alright, that looks better. So we could theoretically use this, but I feel like I'm like right up on the screen. Alright, here's Bravo. I'm giving like constant thrust. I haven't actually gone to idle since we've left the stand. Alright. That's a nicer sight picture. I actually might set the zoom to this the day of, because I want to be able to see the screen. But we'll deal with this for now. On our way here, we can, don't really need weather or terrain because it's flat around here and there's no weather today. So we won't worry about that right now. Looking ahead, flight directors are on. Pre-takeoff, takeoff flaps are set, speed brakes are retracted. Okay, so we don't arm the speed brakes. Instruments are checked, landing lights are on, not yet. Strobe lights on, we'll do that. Okay, we'll do that at the hold point, the pre-takeoff checklist. Let's see, what's the sight picture for center line in this thing? Right about there-ish. So kind of coming through the scoreboard. I think this might be, no, November 10 might be the next one. Oh yeah, it is the next one. Okay, we'll keep going. We won't have to worry about this the day of because it should be, we'll be in line. It should be pretty self-evident where all the planes are going. Alright, so we'll get ready for this turn. We're a little too fast. But and turn. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So the sight picture out of the right window, you kind of want the center line to be in the back third of that window, whereas in the Airbus, it would be in the front third. And it looks like we turned too late, but because this thing is so long, by the time the nose wheel swings around, here we go. Nice and straight. That's crazy. So we will hold here and do our final pre-takeoff checklist. Alright, so we'll want to get a VNAV and LNAV armed, auto throttle is armed, landing lights can come on. And let's do the pre-takeoff checklist. Takeoff flaps are set, speed brakes are retracted, instruments are checked, landing lights are on, strobe lights are on, parking brakes are off. Takeoff checklists. We want to be center of the runway. We want to call out 80 knots instead of 100. V1 rotates, positive climb, gear up. Okay. So pretty similar to the Airbus, just calling out 80 knots versus 100. So, and we want to go to the tower frequency. We should have set that on our roll. So tower is 119.23. Into standby transfer, we would put center there as well if we had it, but we'll give them a call. Triple tower, Virgin 9084, holding short of runway 9, ready for takeoff. They would clear us for takeoff. We'd say clear for takeoff, Virgin 9084, and we would take the runway. I'm finding the plane is moving a lot easier, but we're very light on fuel, and that's why. That is why. I actually may have turned too late this time. Oh yeah, very late. So we'll get ourselves nice and straight. We have all the runway to ourselves. So just get those back wheels a little more centered. And we'll just ease ourselves straight. And takeoff, we'll hit the toga button to get those auto throttles. Didn't work. Let's try that again. We have to hit this button. They have to be idle. Hold on. This is disconcerting. This is the first time this hasn't worked. Everything looks set. V-speeds are set, that's all fine. RTO. Okay. There we go. Takeoff. Interesting. This is why we practice. Oh, 80 knots, 100 knots. Taking off really quick again because we're so light. V1. Rotate. Hold attitude at about 10 degrees in the 787. Positive rate, gear up. And autopilot. I don't know why thrust went to idle. But let's be careful of that as well. This is why it's so temperamental. We'll go back to our speed restriction. We'll just do this manually. Alright, flaps 5. Flaps up. Now, why did we miss? Do we have to turn immediately? Maybe we didn't brief that properly. Yeah, we basically turn at 500 feet, so it's very immediate. But we are inbound MO53, so that is fine. And at this point, we would switch over to departure. We could have put that in actually 119.055. Transfer. Let's say triple departure, Virgin 9084, 2300 for 2500. All right, taking a look at our SID. We'll stay at 2500 until MO94, and then we'll clear ourselves to cruise at 36,000. Speed restrictions are actually no longer in effect. So see if auto throttle gets us to 250, and it looks like it will. Alright, let's go ahead and clean up our engine screen and see if we can get this map over on the right. And then navigation display, navigation display. Or there is a trick to this. Oh, you know what? And if I do, there we go. That's how you do it. It's so weird, this thing. Alright, so approaching ammo 94. And let's clear ourselves to 36,000. So and if I push it, VNAV speed, back to idle thrust, which is not right. Thrust ref, there we go. So strange. I really hate that this auto thrust does not seem to really want to stay functional. That's why we need fly-by-wire to do the A380. We really do. Come on, guys. Alright, so let's check our post-takeoff checklist. Auto throttle on, taxi landing lights come off. Well, not landing lights, not until we get to 10,000. Flaps as required, autopilot's on, route manager is active. Get the auto brakes to off, and they are. That must have been automatic. Seatbelt signs on. Engine stars are fine. APU's off. Oh, we'll have to do standard altimeter setting at transition. And we can probably do that now since we're definitely cleared past transition. So I think if we just click on standard, STD, there we go. Alright, then it has a bunch of like speed limits and such. It says max climb rate should be no more than 2,500 feet per minute, but we are just flying up 4,000 feet per minute. That's insane. Again, the day of will be much heavier, so that'll be harder to do. So, other things we'll be testing is not just related to the flight, but also related to our stream settings. Because it's going to be a long flight, we're going to have to fill the time somehow. Let's try this game here. Okay, it's going to go pretty well. It's such a silly thing. Hopefully we'll have some fun with it on Saturday. Alright, landing lights can come off now. And everything's looking pretty fine. So things we'll want to be aware of during the day. So this is the progress page. It gives you ETA to the next waypoint and the next and your destination. I think if we go to the legs page, one of these route data, here we go. So we can go through the next pages here, and we could use this to estimate our ETA to oceanic entry for the purpose of getting our clearance. So about 45 minutes before we expect to get to our entry waypoint for oceanic, we can use this ETA page, this route data page, to fill out our clearance request. And we'll also use this to monitor to make sure that we are getting there on time. And if we deviate more than 3 minutes, we'll have to adjust our entry time. That's good to know that that is there. What else? Navrads, self-explanatory. We didn't program this in for our departure, but that's fine. Offset, does this work? It doesn't work, so we won't be able to offset, but that's fine. That's not required for across the pond. That's inop. Holds. We'll play with this a little bit later. And route, self-explanatory. That's our alternate. That's not functional. VNav. Oh, here we can put in our transition speed restrictions if we want to. Okay, this is good to know. So we could have put 220 in the VNav screen for our climb out. Cool. So we'll stay on the progress page for now. I also think this mod has top of descent programmed in. Might be hard to see until we get closer. I may not even calculate it until we get to cruise, but we should keep an eye out for it. Because one of my fears is not being able to descent on time. Let's take a look outside, huh? Already flying over the English Channel. Cloud coverage just looks gorgeous today, as per usual. And this livery is just really amazing. What a nice job they did. We'll definitely take lots of photos on Across the Pond Day. Although the day of we'll be flying in the Virgin livery, because we'll be Virgin 9084. Alright, something else that we should do as part of hygiene is just to make sure our heading bug is always reflective of current heading. This will be especially important on the approach, because if we have to go missed approach, our heading bug will already be set. Alright, so we have some headwinds which are helping with our climb rate, but our climb rate has dropped to 2,100 feet per minute as the air gets thinner. Inbound to Amgod. That's a fun one. Amgod. Alright, I'm definitely feeling the confidence build. I feel better already that we're doing this flight. Most embarrassing moment so far was almost not being able to take off. Oh, I see a bunch of our friends are online tonight. We got Young Tex, got Cross Hepari, we got R2, RD2, R2D2. Oof. I think some of those folks rated my stream a couple weeks back, and we had such a fun time. Alright, so we'll be at top of climb in about 5 minutes, and then we'll practice some maneuvers. But while we wait to finish climbing, let's hop back on to Navigraph and take a look at our arrival real quick. So we'll be flying the Bagso 1 Kilo arrival, so coming from Bagso. Karav is where we're going to practice our holds. So we'll program that in probably when we're inbound Bagso. We'll simulate getting an instruction from ATC to hold at Karav. And there's a speed restriction here, max of 230 knots, and a max flight level of 140. So we'll just aim to be at 6,000 feet at Karav, just for the practice. And then from Karav, we do connect directly to the approach plate. But again, just to practice vectoring, we'll vector away from Karav. So we'll head north. And then when we're ready to come back onto the approach, we'll do a direct to BAPTA. So we'll get to practice holds, vectors, and direct twos all in our approach. And that's that. So for the day of, we are also, I forget where online I found this, but I was trying to find a nice template for a kneeboard scratch pad for all of our clearances and radio frequencies, and I found this nice one. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but it has all of your departure information, ATIS, you get space for all of your frequencies to put your clearance. Basically it has a template for what you expect the readback to look like, and then on the arrival we'll be able to pre-fill out all the frequencies we expect, so it should be pretty easy, hopefully reduce our cognitive workload to get those frequencies into our radio. Alright, and once we get to our cruise altitude, we will practice changing speeds and changing altitudes. And the reason why we want to practice that is our oceanic entry altitude and speed may be different from our domestic speed and altitude. So we'll have to be prepared to change that appropriately, so that by the time we get to the oceanic entry point, we are at the right speed, we're at the right altitude, we're there at the right time. And I'll just make a mental note of it now. Something else we'll want to check when we get on the ground is fuel, because I want to make sure that our sim brief profile is calibrated appropriately, because I'm relying on it for fuel planning. And we don't want to be in a situation where we're like 6 hours into our flight and we find we are low in fuel. Alright, we are almost at top of climb. And what's cool with the 787 is that this green bar indicates when we'll get to top of climb. So we'll get there right at SOPAC 10 miles from now. And speed VNAV path. So throttles are pulling back. So the added simism, the added weird challenge with the throttles. As you can see, the throttles, when on auto thrust mode, move automatically, whereas in the Airbus we have the detents. The problem is the throttles I have in front of me in real life don't move. So when I disengage the auto throttle, unless it's in a relatively similar position to where these are in the moment, there could be wild changes in thrust. So we'll have to manage that on the approach. Alright, so we are at cruise altitude. And now let's say we're flying at Mach 0.836. Looks like we're trying to get to Mach 0.84. So I'll give the autopilot a minute or two just to kind of stabilize. It looks like we're still trying to get up there a little bit. And we can see in the, I think in the progress, in the VNAV page for cruise, our cruise econ speed is set to 0.85. So let me see if I can override this. This might be one way to adjust it, so 0.84. Nope, it doesn't take it. Okay, interesting. Try different syntax, we'll do 0.840. Nope, still does not take it. Interesting. Yeah, so that's something else to be aware of, is that it doesn't quickly get to your precise speed. Looks like it's kind of working its way there ever slowly. Alright, but let's say we did want to adjust speed to Mach 0.84. I think we go ahead and click this in. We got our Mach speed here, and then just one tap to the left there, the throttle pulls back. The speed bug has changed. And we are slowing down to Mach 0.84. And we'll probably keep it in this mode for the entire cruise, for the entire oceanic cruise, just so we can be absolutely certain that we're keeping these parameters constant and that the autopilot is not taking over or making adjustments without us knowing. It probably wouldn't do that, but still, I'd rather see the number here and just be sure. Let's adjust our bug again. We're going to be on heading 278 for a while. And now let's practice some altitude changes. So let's adjust to 38,000, so 2,000 up, and we'll do flight level change. So flight level change speed, thrust ref. Thrust levers are moving forward. And do I have to hit this to activate it? No, it's starting to go up. Okay. So it just takes a little bit to respond. I believe flight level change is the mode that pilots use where they're in cruise to change altitude. They don't stay in VNAV. But we'll probably want to go back in VNAV when we're ready for our descent. Alright. Getting up there, speed, alt. And that's how that works. Alright, so let's get back down to 36,000. Flight level change. Flight level change speed, thrust ref. And down we go. Alright, and there we could see on our navigation, there's our top of descent marker, so we'll definitely want to begin our descent probably a touch before then, just to be on the safe side. But we do still have to program in our arrival. So going back to Navigraph, just to remind ourselves here, we are flying the Bagzo 1 kilo. Oh, is that the right chart? Yeah, Bagzo 1 kilo. For the ILS runway 16 via Karev. Let's go back to our flight computer. Depart arrival to the arrival page. And we'll do ILS 16. Transition Karev. Bagzo 1 kilo. And it's kind of hard to tell. I think there is a way to step through that, but we'll go ahead and just hit execute. And should calculate our new top of descent. It's still in relatively the same position, but coming up pretty quick, about 100 miles. And what else do we need to do? I think on progress, not progress, which one am I looking for? VNAV. If we go to the next page, that's our descent. I'm looking to see where we set V-speeds. Init ref approach. There we go. So we'll plan for 25 knots and flaps 25 and 141 knots. Get that into flap speed there. I'll just write that down for reference. So flap 25, speed 141 knots, because we'll have to manage our speed manually as we go through the different flap settings. So that should be all that we need there. And based on all that, we should get there at 4 past the hour. Okay, what else we got? Auto brake. We'll do brake 3. Probably do less, but I think 3 is just like a good rule of thumb average. And what does our checklist tell us? So prior to descent, anti-ice as required, navigation radios set, course settings set, fuel quantity checked, auto brake setting is as required, approach briefing is done. It says on descent to use a heads-up display, but no. Yeah, there's a lot of extra steps here that we won't need because this mod is just not that detailed. And, you know, for the purposes of this flight, we'll go back to... how do I get back to manage speed? Would that be via VNav? I'm clicking on this, and it doesn't seem to clear the display. If I go to VNav, there, it goes away. So now we'll go back to the... oh yeah, that makes sense, because that's the speed on the VNav page. Okay. Alright, let's figure out how to actually step through the plan. So if we go to legs page, is that how we do it? Let's zoom in. And next page, no, it wouldn't be next page. It would be, oh, step, here we go. Oh, that's cool. This is how we'll check. There's top of descent. Oh, there's a route discontinuity between bag zone and ADSYS. And on our charts, I think they should connect. Bag zone to ADSYS. That's strange. So can we... I think if we just click ADSYS and put it above, there we go, that clears it, and execute. And is this the missed approach? Is that what this blue circle is? Hold point Akarov. Yeah, that's crazy. The missed approach is programmed in, but we are also going to hold there. So if that is programmed in, I fully expect the hold functionality to work. Alright, so let's also see here. Previous page. Route data, is this what we want? Yeah. Well, I want to know distance. There we go. This is what I want. So I want to know the track. No, that's not giving me track miles. That's miles between points. Because I want to figure out how many miles to Bagso so we know when to roughly start our top of descent. Because I don't trust that to tell us like when we need to descend to get to 6,000. Interesting. What is... Yeah, it looks like there's a hold already pre-programmed. I'm trying to figure out how to interpret this. If we come into the legs... Bagso. Or the first Karev, I guess. Hmm. Okay, so I guess I cleared that hold. Which is fine. I'd rather learn how to program it manually than rely on an automatic one. No, it still seems to be in there. Yeah, it's still in there. Interesting. Cool. Alright, well, firstly, let's just go to the legs page. I want to get rid of that duplicate Karev waypoint. I'm going to do this. There we go. Execute. Just make that cleaner. Alright, 8 miles out from top of descent. Make sure there wasn't anything we want to do at cruise. And we're going to do vectors, holds, and direct twos once we get down. So I'm going to put in 6,000 feet now, which is where we want to get. So there's some VNAV data there on altitude at least. Oh, I see, and there's a hold out just programmed in at the very end. I see, okay. That's where that's coming from. So we can clear that if we wanted to. Alright, so let's do this. Let's try this. So we'll know when we'll get to Bagso. 11:57 Zulu. And that's in 23 minutes. Can we approximate how long it will take us to get down there? There's some rules of thumb for this, but I'll have to look it up later. But we'll try the top of descent. We'll see how well that does for us. When we do cross the pond, if ATC starts giving us altitudes before top of descent, we should be fine. And we'll just request a descent if they don't by the time we hit our top of descent. Just I know VNAVs on descent can be a bit finicky in these mods. Oh. So lose 30,000 feet. How long should that take us? Let's see. So 6 times ground speed is descent rate, rule of thumb. So that would be 1,800 feet per minute. So for 30,000, it would take us roughly 15 minutes. Okay, I think that's fine. In terms of distance, to lose 120 miles. So I'd rather just know the distance, really. So it's, yeah, so actually it's within 120 miles. So actually we should start descent now. Let's see what would happen if we did. If we're early, that's fine. I'd rather just not be late. So descend. Speed, VNAV speed. Thrust. Starting to come back as we pitch down. There, that will tell us. Okay, so yeah, we'll get to 6,000 really quickly. Wow, so 30,000 feet in less than 80 miles. Okay, we've learned our lesson there. We can get down really quick if we have to. That doesn't seem quite realistic. Look at that descent rate. Jesus. We're just like falling through the sky. 5,000 feet per minute. That's nuts. Oh, it's adjusting. Alright, so we'll see when we actually get there, because it may not actually be accurate. But it felt like we just fell through the 30,000s. I guess a better option might be vertical speed. We can calculate the vertical speed that we need roughly and just stick to that. Because this is crazy. So I'm not going to go below 10,000 feet because I don't want to get to those speed restrictions. So we'll adjust to 13,000. We'll stay there until we're closer. Some pretty thick clouds. The progress page, do they have our transition level as well? Not progress, sorry. VNav? No. So we'll just check nav graph. Transition level by ATC, so it's not defined. So at this point we'll just go to standard pressure, or sorry, go to local QNH. And we'll just hit the B button, since we don't have an ATIS. Yeah, so that descent was absolutely freaking insane. And we just blew past it. Because I had to hit the button again. Even though it was displaying here, I guess it wasn't activated. And we have a new top of descent calculated. And that looks to be roughly... So from here we have to lose like 7,000 feet. So that'd be like 30 miles. I believe that we'll be able to... Okay, so let's try. For the next segment of the descent, let's get to 6,000 starting at there. And since Bagso is in sight, we seem to be struggling to get up there. Let's try flight level change. And while that's figuring that out, let's program our hold at Bagso. Or is it Karev? Karev. So inbound course is 208 and right turn. Let's double check that on the star as well. Inbound course is 208. Right turn. What the hell? Overspeed. Come on. Temperamental as hell, this thing. We'll have to be really careful with this autopilot. Alright. So 208 right turn. So if I just do 208, will it take it? I'll have to do the whole thing. So 208/R, we'll take that. Yes, okay, good. Leg time 1 minute, leg distance 6.5 nautical miles. That's probably just standard. That looks about right. And there's the whole point programmed in, so we'll go ahead and execute. Max airspeed. It's already programmed in there. So let's see. Let us see. Let's go to the legs page. I'm just going to, just to make this cleaner, I'm going to delete the hold that we have here. How can I clear that? Delete. There we go. And then can I delete the discontinuity? There we go. And execute. Cool. So this is showing we'll be in the hold until we leave the hold. So we'll see what the options they give us when we're actually in the hold. All right. All right. So to recap, we are inbound to our hold point. We're going to practice a hold. And then we're going to leave the hold and practice vectoring. And then we're going to practice direct to our approach. And I think it probably makes sense to go ahead and step through this flight plan to make sure it all still makes sense. Alright, there's a top of descent. We'll get down to 6,000 feet from that point. Bagso, ADSYS, Karev, that's our whole point that we've programmed in. And hold at Karev, then we go to Aruda. but we'll vector and we'll skip Aruda and we'll do it direct to BABDA, do our ILS. And then we still have this kind of missed approach waypoint. I'll just go ahead and delete that. And execute. And then this waypoint as well, if it will let me. And this one, this discontinuity, just really clean that up, because our flight is just going to end at that ILS runway 16. Great. Alright, so far this plane flies alright. The autopilot is really finicky. And the flight model is weird. Like the climb rates, the descent rates are just absolutely insane. But hopefully part of that is just the function that we're so light on this practice flight. We'll be a lot heavier on Saturday. What we haven't set yet are minima. So let's take a look at our approach plate. So we're flying the ILS. We are a Cat D in the 787 Heavy. And that's something I forgot to do. I need to append heavy to my call sign on initial contact. Need to remember that on the day of. Alright, so I believe the rule of thumb here is that we use baro when the weather's fine, and radios in low visibility. In the fly-by-wire A320, I typically just do radios when they're available. But let's take a look. Just going to look at my flight plan real quick. See what the weather is in Dublin. Weather looks fantastic. So we'll do baro minimums. That's fine. So what is that? 420. So set this to baro, and how does one do this? It's not updating on the huh. Interesting. It's not letting me set the minimums. Reset. What am I doing wrong here? Can I set the radio minimums? No, it just seems to be completely an op. That's so funny, because I believe this definitely used to work. On tutorial videos I've seen, this definitely worked, but maybe we'll try closer to the closer to our destination. Or maybe we need to be in our descent phase. Alright, yeah, we'll try it again when we're descending. Alright, we'll get to our top of descent very shortly. We'll get our new altitude programmed in here, 6,000 feet for the hold. And actually, let's see. Go to VNav. Go to the next page. I'm curious if descent will automatically begin. Otherwise, we'll try descent now. Suspense is killer. Kind of feels like top descent is not moving. Is it moving? It is moving. VNav speed idle. We are descending. But we're slowing down. Oh, it's a 281. And let's see if it takes us to 6,000. That's pretty cool. So it'll be very hard to miss top of descent, assuming it's calculated correctly. Yeah, here comes our estimate. Will we get to 6,000 before Karev? Looks like we will. I'm pretty impressed by that. The next test is if it will automatically slow us to 230 knots for the hold. Because it seemed to imply it would in the hold screen, but on the legs, hold at Karev, there's an altitude restriction, but there's no speed. Alright, 10,000 feet, we can get those landing lights on. Try that barrow again. Nope. Still not working. Oh, okay, at 10,000 feet we're slowing down to 240. Interesting. To the time it takes us to slow down, that may impact when we actually get to 6,000 feet. Okay. Yep, we'll get there right before Karev. There's the rest of our routing. Very simple approach route. All right. The hold seems like it's pretty big. It's a pretty big hold. Again, I wonder if it will slow us down to 230 knots. If we go to the hold page, we'll see the parameters. So 1 minute legs, yeah. Max speed 230, so should know it. The data is there. Alright, so now we're turning inbound Karev. We have the ILS already picked up, which is nice. Curious why we're speeding up. Speed VNAV path. Alright, about to enter the hold. 1 mile out. Is this going to work? We're in the hold. Speed has not changed. So let's do it ourselves. Max was 330, we'll do like 325. And based on the tape, we should get to flap 1. Alright, so we're flying the hold, just not very well. Hopefully it's good enough for ATC's purposes on Across the Pond Day. Because I think there's like an 85% chance we're going to have to hold. So let's check the FMC here to see if it's obvious on how to exit the hold. Oh yeah, you can hit exit hold. Nice. Very nice. Alright, it's trying desperately to get us back on path. We'll see if it can stabilize on downwind and then maintain the hold. And while it's doing that, let's go ahead and brief the rest of the approach, because there were some speed restrictions we'll have to be aware of. It looks like a pretty short approach overall. So looking at Navigraph here. Yeah, so at Aruda we'll want to be at 210 knots. At BAPTA we'll want to be at 180. We'll want to be at 160 by Gardy, so we'll probably want to be like fully configured by the time we get to this final approach fix. Because our approach speed tonight's 141 knots. There's a Dublin VOR. Let's put that into our FMC, so 114.9. 114.9. I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually accept the letter designation, dub, but it does show up there. So we're going to do direct to BAPTA. We're going to skip Aruda. That's going to be our practice for direct twos. And we'll want to be at 180 knots by then. So according to this, we can't really see. Oh yeah, we'll want to be, I guess, flap 10. All right. Looks like we're flying the hold a bit better now. It's definitely acceptable. Alright guys, so we've confirmed we can do holds. That's huge. That's huge. Alright, so when we approach Karev, we will practice a vector. And we'll vector a precise downwind for runway 16. So that would be heading 340. So let's get that in here. We know we can exit the hold by hitting exit hold, but let's see if we go into heading mode, it will do the same thing. Hey, Killer Gorilla, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. It is not. A 787 is not my favorite by a long shot. I usually fly the fly-by-wire A320 experimental version. But tonight we're practicing for Cross the Pond, which is the VATSIM event that's occurring on Saturday, where 1,000 pilots will be flying across the Atlantic in real time with full air traffic control coverage. So in order to do that crossing in Microsoft Flight Simulator, your options are basically the 787, which I have here modded with the Heavy Division mod, which makes it a little bit better, or the salty 747. And I know nothing about that one, but yeah, I'm flying this tonight because I need the range. Do you have a favorite? It is pretty much all day Saturday, April 2nd, starting at 10 Zulu, roughly. So that would be 6 a.m. East Coast time. All right, so let's see if we can exit this hold now. We'll hit select. Heading select, so it seems to be paying attention to it. The hold is still in the FMC. And there's our vector. Alright, so we'll vector ourselves to behind BAPTA. And then we'll do a direct to BAPTA to practice directs. So my departure time for Across the Pond will be at, wheels up will be 11:15 Zulu, so roughly 7:15 in the morning on Saturday, East Coast time. I'll be signing on to VATSIM and starting my stream on Twitch around 6:30 a.m. Eastern time, so that would be 10:30 Zulu. If you guys are interested in watching the event, there'll be a ton of streamers online, so you can kind of bounce back and forth between a bunch. But if you want to watch my channel, feel free to hit the follow button, and you'll be notified when I come online. All right, so now we know we can vector ourselves, which is great. Let's start slowing ourselves down. So let's get to flaps 5. And slow ourselves down to 210. So unlike the fly-by-wire, we kind of have to manage this part ourselves. And I believe the rule is that once you get to the next indicator here. Oh, hey, Killer Gorilla, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Sick. Yeah, so once we get to that next green number, that's when we want to be in the flap level ahead of it. So we want to be at flap 20. That's a pretty big jump, actually. We want to be at flap 20 below 200. And we configure to land at flap 25, which will give us an approach speed of 141 knots. That's what this ref 141 is. But on the actual approach, we'll want to hold like 5 to 10 knots above that. One sec. And we're back. All right, in a few minutes, we'll vector ourselves 90 degrees to the left. Because BAPTA is kind of sneaky. It's only 12 miles from the runway, so that would, we don't want to be turning into BAPTA too tight. But just for expediency, let's do a 45-degree vector at this point. This is probably realistic. They wouldn't vector us 90 degrees, so let's go to 295. I just set our bank angle to auto. See how well it manages our bank. We'll also want to get down to 3,000 for the glide slope intercept, so we'll do that now as well. Again, ATC would likely guide us at this point. VNav out. Oh, but you know what? It's adhering to flight level restrictions. Interesting. So it's not letting us drop. It'll probably let us drop below 6,000 once we do direct to Baruta. But let's say ATC said, like, you have to get down. I think if we go to flight level change, flight change speed, idle, that's basically going to maximize our descent rate, which is also not ideal. I guess we could also do vertical speed. Let's try that. Let's do... Oh, sorry, down. Let's do 1,000 feet per minute. And we'll just maintain our indicated airspeed. And that green bar is telling us when we'll get there. And that's actually a great place. So when we get to 3,000 feet, then we'll do our direct to Barda. And we'll configure for the final approach. I'm going to go ahead and get our engine screen back here so I can keep an eye on flaps and the map. There's green fields of Ireland ahead of us. Can't quite see the airport just yet. But these are great conditions for practice because visibility is not fantastic. I mean, it's fine, but it's not perfect. Yeah, so honestly, I think vertical speed will be the way we go on our descent, because when we let VNav do our descent for us, we just like fell from the sky. It was insane. So I think we'll commit to a vertical speed, maybe like 2,500 feet per minute, and we'll just go ahead and calculate how long it would take us to get from our assigned altitude to the next level. So even though the 787 seems real fancy with all these like glass screens and such, it is far more manual than the Airbus. And we still can't set our barra minimums, which is really annoying. Alright, Alt. So at this point, let's do our direct. So we're going to direct BAPTA. So if we click BAPTA and throw it at the top, and execute, and activate VNav, but keep airspeed. That's annoying. Oh, it's not VNav. We want LNAV, LNAV, LNAV. So speed, LNAV, VNav path. And now we'll turn onto final approach. See on the RadNav page, make sure ILS is still in there, and it is, because we have lost the ILS signal. We should get it back shortly. Get rid of LNAV now. I'll go back to heading mode. And LNAV.
2,500.
Oh shit, did I just mess that up? I think I just messed that up.
2,500.
There we go, LNAV. I gotta be real careful with this autopilot, guys. Alright, so once we're pointed to BAPTA, I'll activate the approach phase. We are 22 miles away. Let's activate that approach. So localizer locked, VNav path, glide slope is armed. Let's take a look at the missed approach altitude. So once we're on glide slope, max 3,000, so we'll keep that altitude in there. And we're coming in beneath the glide slope, which is exactly where we want to be. let's go ahead and get down to 180 knots. And flap 20. All right. That glide slope should start coming in any moment. And Garty is the final approach fix, and here comes the glide slope. Alright, 8 miles-ish. And almost, so one spot away, we'll do gear down. Glide slope. Down we go. We'll reduce now to ref speed, about 10 knots above ref speed. So 151. As we drop below 20, we'll go ahead and head to flaps 25. Oh, I just went to 30. Is that? Oh, there's 25. Very subtle difference. So once we seem really nice and stable on that glide slope, we'll consider disengaging the auto throttle. Roll out and flare our arms, so that's for the auto land. We'll do it manual today. Looks like power is stabilizing around 49.5% thrust. Don't have a visual on the runway yet, so I'm going to keep everything on autopilot until I do. Yep, so even at that point I still can't do the barrow minimums. Alright, there's the runway. Alright, so let's try disengaging auto thrust. If I don't touch my throttle controls, I should hold at that speed setting. And 500-ish AGL, 600-ish AGL will take off autopilot completely. Just maintain that sight picture. Actually got a tailwind coming into this runway right now, but very light. Pappy lights showing on glide slope.
400.
Very stable approach.
300. 200.
A little right of line. A little high. Thrust idle.
40. 30. 20. 10.
Oh boy. It's a very short runway. The F. Reverse thrust. That is a very short runway. That was very short. Oh my god, did we not brief the length of that runway? We did not. What runway did we just land on? 1.6? Only 2,000 meters? What? That's crazy. Their longest runway is 2,600 meters. That's nuts. And this is a departure airport for across the pond. That is crazy. Okay, let's get off this runway. Alright, we're heading to the left here. Oh my god. But I will say, this is the first time I've done an airliner landing without auto throttle. Because in the Airbus, I'm so used to keeping it on speed until the retard call when I go to idle. But this wasn't too different because I just, got myself on a stable approach, then deactivated the auto throttle, and the thrust just stayed constant. But still, that was wild. Alright, so let's hold here and do our after landing checklists. So we'll go through the flows that we know. We can disable autopilot altogether. Although I can't seem to turn off LNAV. There we go. Alright, then flaps can come all the way up. We never armed the speed brakes, which is also probably why it took us forever to slow down. So gotta really be careful about things like that. Landing lights come off. Strobes, don't need the turn-offs. Get the APU started at this point. And I think that's good. Let's check the landing checklist. Auto throttle off, autopilot disconnects, reverse throttle. Oh, that's the actual landing. So taxi to ramp, speed brakes retracted, flaps up, taxi lights on, landing lights off, strobe lights off, anti-ice off, flight directors off. We'll do that. And anti-ice. And engine instruments check. So I think we're good to taxi. So we'll just go ahead and pick any old stand. But we would call ATC at this point. Or they would call us. We'd monitor ground. And they give us taxi instructions. But just looking at this chart real quick. We'll take Foxtrots. Maybe turn in a Foxtrot 2 and then just find a parking spot. Or actually, you know what? No. Let's go to Bravo 1 and pick one of these on the south apron. Just to keep it simple. Alright. So, that was pretty successful overall, I think. So we practiced vectors, we practiced holds, we practiced speed changes, altitude changes, did direct to instructions, did a pre-flight, programmed the FMC without much problems, did an approach and landing. I do want to check our fuel quantity when we get to stand, So I'm going to compare that with my OFP and see if SimBrief is calculating fuel burn appropriately. And then we'll make adjustments as necessary. But that was a pretty successful dry run. For the next one, we'll do another practice run on Thursday night around the same time. We'll practice arrivals into Boston. Since on Saturday for Across the Pond, I'll be flying from Amsterdam to Boston. Tonight, we did departures out of Amsterdam. Thursday, we'll do arrivals into Boston. And then Saturday is the big event. It'll be about 7.5 hours of flight time, not counting delays, which are pretty much inevitable during Across the Pond. All right, let's just go into this next stand here. Careful to swing around, not too quickly. Tail, just follow me in. All right, parking brakes are set. Confirm the APU is running. And it is. So we can go ahead and cut off those engines. And seatbelt signs can come off. Generators are off. All right, so let's do our engine shutdown checklist. The parking brakes are set, engine generators are off, external power can come on because it is available, so let's pump that on. Yeah, we can turn off taxi lights. Probably should have done that before we turned it to stand. That's fine. Oh, that's actually confusing. That's that. I think it's opposite in the Airbus. Beacon come off. We'll keep nav and logo on while we're still shutting things down. Fuel pumps can come off. Right, seatbelt signs off, heads-up display is off. Great, so let's get the jetway connected. Hello, jetway. Alright, and now we can pretend that everyone is off the plane and we could secure the aircraft. So a lot of these systems like packs, pressurization, equipment cooling, window heating, they all don't work. So I think we can kind of do our own checklist on securing the aircraft. Clear that warning. And we'll just go up here. So we'll turn the IRSs off. We'll turn the APU off. And what else? Go to nav and logo lights. And those are pretty much, I think, all the things that actually work. What are these? Window heat. Can we actually shut off the window heats? Oh, we can. It's all one system. These are all in-op. That's all in-op. Yeah, this is pretty much all we can do. Hydraulics are all in-op. So I guess at this point we could turn off external power and shut down the battery. And that gets us back to cold and dark, effectively. Sick, everyone. Well, thank you again for joining me tonight on this practice flight, practicing departures out of Amsterdam. I think it was largely successful. I want to do some more research on how to manage descents in this implementation of 787, as well as figuring out how we can get that Barrow minimum to work. It'll be nice to have the minimum call out so we can make misapproach decisions if we need to. As you can see, we are flying the Ukraine livery tonight because we are supporting Project Hope. If you type in !Ukraine, which I'll do right now for you all, you'll get information about where you can support We'll be flying this livery again on Thursday. We'll be in the Virgin Atlantic livery for Across the Pond, but the fundraiser will continue until the end of that event. So feel free to give if you can. 100% of proceeds go to Project Hope, which will support refugees of Ukraine. But if you want to come and just hang out and have fun, chat with the folks on the channel, absolutely feel free. Hope to see you then. And until next time, this is Mike Number Whiskey signing off. Have a good night.